Now, if you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, or you listen to any of my tracks, then you'll know that I love that kind of lo-fi kind of sound, that gritty dirtiness almost. I've got so many plugins that I use that kind of give me that kind of dirty, saturated sound. But still, when I see or hear about a new plugin that comes along that can do that kind of effect, I get this itch to have to try it, and a new one came through by email. It's called SampleX by BeatSkillz. Now, I'm not quite sure whether this is a new plugin or it's just recently been rediscovered, or maybe it's just new to Plugin Boutique. I'm not quite sure because I've never actually heard of it before, but it did interest me as soon as I saw it. Now, it is classified as a bit crusher, so I'm guessing it's got a whole load of features in there to just dirty stuff up. Looking at the screenshot, it does have a few knobs on there for bit rate, sample rate, some kind of shift of some sort, and definitely a drive. It's a nice looking interface. So yeah, it's one of those things that kind of, as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, I was instantly interested in it. So yeah, we have bits control within there. We got sample rate control. We've got shift, which is some kind of, I'm not quite sure, it lowers the pitch of the samples. I'm not quite sure what the shifting does. I think it's maybe some kind of warping thing to make it sound like a vinyl player that kind of slows down and speeds up and things like that. Again, a really interesting kind of effect. And then of course we've got drive, which is on most kind of saturators anyway. It says it has analog filter emulation as well, which a lot of them kind of claim to have that kind of analog sound. I'm always kind of dubious when I kind of see a software plugin to have some kind of analog sound. Usually means it's been modeled in some way in that way. So again, I think we're only going to actually know what this sounds like until I test it out. Now I can also see from the screenshots that there's a whole load of great presets under here, and it looks like they're all kind of based on old school samplers, which instantly kind of makes me excited to kind of use this, because constantly I'm trying to emulate those old school samplers and that gritty kind of sampled effect. That's just part of my tracks and my sound. So yeah, I'm really interested to try this one out. Now, if you haven't seen these series of videos before, I'm calling them Test Lab. This is where I take plugins and software and try them out on my own tracks, seeing how they work in real world examples, real world tests. These aren't going to be review videos. I'm not going into every single feature and showing you how it all works. There's plenty of videos out there on YouTube that probably do that. But in these videos, I want to see how they work on my tracks and see whether it's something that I can see myself using. And with SampleX, I want to see how it works on my drums, on my vocals, on my keys, seeing what kind of effect it can do. So let's jump into Ableton and see how this works. Okay, so let's try out this plugin, and the first thing I want to try it out on is my drums, because that's the thing that I always want to put saturation on, kind of dirty them up, give them a bit of a lo-fi kind of feel. Now my drums in this track, this remix, already are kind of lo-fi-ish kind of drums anyway. They're quite raw, so there is kind of a kind of dirt to them already. But I want to add some more. I want to get some more lo-fi-ness to it anyway. So this is how they sound at the moment. There's a whole load of stuff in there. The kick's nice and weighty, and there's like the tops are very kind of light. But let's get some crunch in there. I want to try this SampleX and see how that goes. So I'm going to put this on the whole drum group, including the kick as well. I wouldn't necessarily put it on there, but I want to see what it does. I want to get that kind of whole feel on it. Now I am going to use the trial version because I want to see whether this works or not, something that I want to invest in or not. So I'm going to click not today, I guess. So let's go through, and usually I always go for the presets first to see, you know, kind of what it does. It'll give me a good feel of the kind of sound from it. So let's just go through a few of the presets. You know what? I quite like the sound of some of those presets. Those presets are really quite good. mean, that one's kind of subtle. That kind of works. I really like some of these. They sound really good. I'm going to go through a few more and then start tweaking it. See, I mean, that's really harsh, but I wonder if I use the wet and dry, see if I can mix that in a bit. I really do like how crunchy that sounds. It's got a real nice sound to it. I think that one might be my favorite preset yet. It's got a real lo-fi sound to it. So let's start having a tweak around and see what happens. So we've got the bits over here, the sample rate, the shift and the drive. I'm not quite sure what this knob does. I guess, oh yeah, so it's turning it on and off. So the dial's not enough. You can turn it on and off as well. Then we've got the frequency down here. I'm guessing it's some kind of cutoff of some sort. And then the resonance, yeah, so it must be a filter of some sort. Not even sure what this is down here, but I absolutely love it. Does this do anything? No, this doesn't do anything. I just love it. I love the way it looks. And then we got some simple controls down here for wet and dry. Not quite sure what the in and out. Oh, so the in and out boost, I guess. So you got input gain and an output gain as well. So cool. Okay, let's have a play around and see what does what. You know what? I think the magic part of this plugin is actually the filter here. I mean, I've seen the bits and the sample rate and shift and everything else like that in other kind of distortion plugins. But I think this cutoff, this filter, there's something about it that gives it the character. And I do really, really like that. I wonder if we can turn it on and off. I would really love to see behind the scenes on what that filter is doing, because that sounds really good. I think it's the filter. The filter really stands out for me with this, and I think that's almost enough to buy this plugin on. I really, really love the sound of that. Let's try on something else. I'm going to delete it off of these drums, and let's try my pad sound that I've got going on here. So this is how it sounds at the moment. Actually, it's quite filtered out at the moment. Let me find a bit earlier on in the track. I'm going to turn the LFO tool off for now, just so we get that side chaining. And I'm going to put that SampleX after the reverb at the end there. You know what? I absolutely love that. That is really nice. The sound that comes out of it is so cool straight away, just with the presets. And yeah, I actually really, really love this. This is a really cool plugin. And I tell you what, it's not my only distortion plugin. I mean, I really love the Decimort by D16, and that is pretty much my go-to distortion plugin. Let's do some side-by-sides and see what I can do with both. So we can see we have pretty much the same kind of controls. There's obviously a lot more on the Decimort. I think it's the filter though, and I'm wondering whether the filter is actually better in this. Like, I've never been keen on the filter within Decimort. All the other features work really, really well, especially the DC shift works so good. It kind of gives it that grittiness, and especially the resampler as well. Taking the frequency down has always been a great thing for me. And like, for example, the ASR 10 preset within here has been one of my go-tos for saturation for so long. Usually I'm kind of just adjusting the dry wet, so mixing a certain amount of it in, because it generally it's quite heavy when you first start out. But I'm actually liking this SampleX more. Let me do a quick comparison between the two. Now the SampleX has a drive, the Decimort has a preamp. I wonder if that's going to give me the same kind of effect. That SampleX just is more crispy than the Decimort. It just has something about it that is crispier. It really does sound good. There's something about it. And I also appreciate just how much more simplified it is than the Decimort. I don't think I'd actually ditch Decimort for this, but I think the SampleX is going to be something that I'm going to add to my toolbox, because this has got some really good sounds in it. Let's try something else within this project. Maybe let's try the vocal, perhaps. Let's try a bit of vocal and see what we can do with that. So I'm going to use that vocal. Let's put the SampleX on top of that. Now, granted, that vocal there's not too much vocal going on within there, but I just want to see what it can do with this. That SampleX definitely has something. I mean, yeah, just going through the presets alone worked really well. And I think this drive, for me, it seems like the drive and the filter down here seem to be just have something. It's obviously a low pass filter, but it just has a curve on it that I cannot define. It just seems to work really, really well. Better than the Decimort one, at least to my ears anyway. And the rest of the controls obviously are really simple within here. I don't even need to play around with the rest of the stuff within here, because let's face it, it's all fairly simple, which I love. I love things simplified. And yeah, I think this works really well. So SampleX, you know what? I absolutely love it. I think it's a fantastic plugin, and it's one I'm definitely going to be picking up because of the sound of it. It is such a great sounding saturator and distortion unit. I can't even categorize it. I think it's just great. And I think mainly because of that filter. I'd love to know what's going on behind the scenes of that, what the envelope or curve or whatever it is that makes that filter so great. That's its winning feature in my eyes. But the drive is also really good as well. It gives it so much power and warmth at the same time. Kind of comparing it with Decimort, I kind of like the sound of this more, to be honest, and the presets are really kind of good starting point. I think the only downside that I can see with it is the wet dry sliders. I'd much rather have a kind of a rocker between the two, so you could go for 30% wet and 70% dry, so you can kind of go between the two, almost like it was locked. But I get where they're going with it, and I think it's just one of those things that are unique to this plugin, so it's not going to stop me buying it, because I think, yeah, it's a great plugin to get. And I'm probably going to be using it on my beats, my vocals, and I'd really love to try it on some keys as well, some just kind of standard kind of piano, and try and see if I can get that kind of old school piano sound. Yeah, so I'm going to be using this in my tracks going forward, no doubt. And if you want to try out yourself, I'm going to put a link down there in the description. You can find it on pluginboutique.com. They've got the trial on there, and they've also obviously got it on there to buy as well. I think there's a little bit of a discount on it at the moment as well. Hit the link up down in the description below. And if you want to check it out, obviously you can do from there. Hopefully this video has been useful to you. If it has, definitely check out the rest of the videos on my channel. I've got a load more stuff where I kind of look at different plugins, software, show you how I use them and why I use them, all on my channel. So definitely check all those out. Get subscribed, hit that notification icon as well, so you're notified the moment I upload a brand new video. And hopefully I'll see you again in the next one.